did the Piers Morgan show yesterday, and I was on a panel, and usually you have two MAGA buffoons that are usually on the panel. The buffoons were Jack Posobiec. If you don't know who Jack Posobiec is, he's the guy who started the whole Pizzagate controversy, and then somebody shows up there with a gun. I mean, if there's anybody that incites violence and is a right-wing buffoon, it's Jack Posobiec.
He thinks he's a wordsmith, but he's not.
He's not, and I destroyed him. And by the way, he blocked me on social media. There's a reason why I'm bringing that up. I'll explain in one of these audio cuts. And the other guy is a guy by the name of Brandon Tatum. If you don't know who Brandon Tatum is, he is the male version of Candace Owens. He happens to be black, and he says the things that a lot of white, crusty, racist conservatives want a black man to say. Brandon is, in my personal opinion, a grifter and a despicable human being. So we spoke about multiple topics on the show. We spoke about Kanye West, or Ye, or whatever the hell his name is, the use of the N-word. We talked about that in censorship.
I've seen the clips.
Yeah. So in the first clip that I'm going to play for you, Brandon, who's a MAGA buffoon, was in a way saying that some of the things that Kanye West says about Jews are not anti-Semitic. Example, some of the things he does, besides saying Heil Hitler in some of his songs, and for some reason Brandon doesn't think that's anti-Semitic, also selling swastika t-shirts. And this guy, Brandon, is trying to say that some of the stuff he does is not really anti-Semitic. And you have Michael Knowles. They played a clip of Michael Knowles saying, well, listen, he's admitting he's evil. He's admitting he's bad, defending Kanye West. By the way, indefensible. And Piers Morgan is on my side, but here's when I gave it to Brandon. Watch this. Right. I can't believe what I'm hearing, Piers, from Brandon, that somehow Heil Hitler in a song isn't anti-Semitic. By the way, this is the same guy who sold swastika t-shirts the week his album came out. Is he mentally disturbed? Yes. I totally disagree with Michael Knowles. Just because somebody thinks they're the villain or they're doing bad doesn't make it okay. And by the way, this is about money, okay? He gets in the news and he says ridiculous things, anti-Semitic or otherwise, to try to sell albums and be in the news. Yes, is he mentally ill? Sure, but here's what makes him even more dangerous. He has one of the biggest platforms on the planet, millions of followers. When he says anti-Semitic things, and that's exactly what they are, it's dangerous because everyday people that are cult followers that follow him will start to buy into it. I had a conversation with a friend of mine who happens to be African-American a few weeks ago. He has become anti-Semitic because he's a huge Kanye West fan. Now, I'm talking with him. I'm trying to work with him. But because some people in society are huge Kanye West fans, they listen to his music, but they also buy his swastika t-shirts. That can also incite violence. This is absolutely anti-Semitic, Brandon, and you can't deny that.
You know what? I'll go back to Brandon quickly for a response. But honestly, I don't know if he quacks like an anti-Semite, he walks like an anti-Semite, and he spends all day, every day, spewing hateful abuse like an anti-Semite. He probably is an anti-Semite.
So Piers is obviously on my side. And by the way, that buffoon, Brandon, didn't have much of any response. What's he going to say? You have a Jewish man who's saying, yeah, this is anti-Semitism. 100% this is anti-Semitism. And you have Brandon, in a way, defending Kanye West.
You shut them down several times. You could tell by the way they were leaning forward and then back in their seat and then trying to come up with a response, but they really couldn't.
No, they couldn't. It gets better, though.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I would like to. I can't wait till we get to the part about the First Amendment.
Yeah. So here's
freedom of speech.
Yeah. So here's where I got into it with Jack Posobiec, because the conversation started to go to defending Kanye West because Spotify is taking him down. Right. And Jack Posobiec, of all people, is talking about censorship. He's upset that people are being censored. And at least maybe I'm a little biased, but I think I kind of destroyed him here and I made him look really stupid. And then he starts calling me a liberal, and I shut that down as well, because that's what they do, these MAGA idiots like Jack Posobiec. If they don't like your argument, and by the way, there's nothing wrong with being a liberal, but I set the record straight with him and I made him look very, very stupid. This is Jack Posobiec and I, because they put us both on the same screen because they knew that I was going to get him good. The people at Piers Morgan, the producers, they know what they're doing. They knew right away that I was going to be going in on Jack Posobiec. Have a listen to this.
Yeah, Brian,
Piers, can I?
Yeah, Brian, go on.
I was just going to say, why is it that so many MAGA Republicans like Jack seem to struggle with what freedom of speech actually is? If I want to go on a public sidewalk, which I never would, and say I hate white people or I hate black people, I would never do that. But The government can't get involved there. But private businesses, as Brandon said, I agree with him, private businesses have the right to do what they want for the most part. And if they want to take Kanye West off a platform, they have the right to do that. And your response to it is, well, I'll go right back at them. No, that's not the way it should be, and that's not the way it works. Businesses and private businesses have the right to take people off their platforms, just like if you wore a swastika shirt into a restaurant, the owner would have the right to say, I don't want to provide service to you. Why is it people like Jack always struggle with what censorship and freedom of speech is? They're very, very different, and private businesses have the right to do that, Jack.
I love that it's the liberal who's speaking up on behalf of big business.
I'm
Will
not a
someone
liberal.
please
No,
think of the
no.
billionaires?
I'm not a
Will someone
liberal.
please think of the corporations? Who's going to help the
excuse me.
corporations? These MAGA Republicans just
Jack.
won't consider their interest.
Jack.
Look, what I'm talking
Can I
about
just correct
here
Jack?
is the idea of a Bill of Rights online. An online or digital Bill of Rights, which is something that I've championed for absolute years regarding viewpoint discrimination, because I believe that the internet has become the new public square. And because it's become the new public square, yes, I obviously agree and acknowledge that it is not illegal for, and nor have I said that it's illegal for Spotify or anyone to censor. What I'm arguing
Didn't say
is
you said that, Jack.
there should be a digital Bill of Rights.
Okay, so Jack, let me just correct you. First of all, just because somebody disagrees with you doesn't mean they're a liberal. I'm a registered independent who did not vote for Barack Obama, and I did not vote for Hillary Clinton. So you guys, every time somebody disagrees with you, you want to lay. I'm anti-Trump. I'm anti-Trump, but I did not vote for Hillary, and I'm a registered independent. Piers, this is my issue with people like Jack. When they disagree with him, he automatically goes to, oh, you're a liberal. By the way, Jack is the guy that blocked me on Twitter for doing the same stuff that I'm doing on this show. I didn't swear at him. I didn't threaten him. He's the guy who wants to talk about censorship, but yet he blocks people on Twitter who disagree with him. Jack, I'm a registered independent. I disagree with you. Your go-to point is always to attack people for being far lefties or liberals. Freedom of speech is very different than a private business taking somebody off their platform, whether you like it or not. That opinion
Freedom of speech is not, you're conflating things now. Freedom of speech is different than just the First Amendment.
No, I'm not.
The First Amendment is constitutional law in the Bill of Rights. Freedom of speech is an ideal of the Enlightenment. So if we're going to take that ideal and enshrine it in law, as the founders intended to in the First Amendment, then the question is, how should that be applied throughout society? And do we have a new type of society now where freedom of speech extends beyond just
Jack,
Congress making laws?
Jack, you can't do things that incite violence. You can't yell fire in a crowded theater.
That was actually overturned.
You can't say things that can... Okay, you can't say things that can incite violence, and if you do that, that could be against the law, and you could be liable for that. For example, okay, so a lot of things to dissect there, Leonard. Let's start here. When he says the Supreme Court overruled it, he's so stupid he doesn't even understand the point that I'm trying to make, which is very simple. You cannot incite violence. That's the point I was trying to make. There's no law that says if you incite violence or lie and say there's something in a crowded theater and it causes people to be crushed or leave the theater in any way, shape, or form, people are injured, you can be found liable there, and that could be a crime.
Well, if you yell bomb, that's a bomb threat.
Thank you.
That is a felony. Bomb threats are felonies.
Leonard, that's the point I was trying to make.
There is a limitation.
That's the point I was trying to make.
And you were not conflating the First Amendment with freedom of speech. And I don't know where he's going with viewpoint discrimination, because viewpoint discrimination is overly broad and it's general. And it has no basis in fact. It's not even an opinion.
And by the way, I have some breaking news here to show what an imbecile Jack is, because I made the point. This is the guy who's crying about censorship, yet this is the guy that blocks everybody on social media. Listen, don't cry about censorship if you're going to block people. So what did Jack do right after the show?
I hope he unblocked you.
He did. He did.
Is that a V for victory?
Listen, I could give two craps if Jack Posobiec blocks me or not. That's not the point. The point I'm trying to make is he's an idiot. He didn't want
hypocritical.
Right, completely hypocritical, and that's why he unblocked me on Twitter. He's an imbecile, and I just destroyed him. And notice how he didn't respond because he knows that he blocked me. Notice how he didn't respond to the point that I was making, and then he had to own the fact. Well, I'm not denying that a private business has to service somebody. Then what's your argument? Then you're crying about censorship, yet you admit on Piers Morgan's show that yes, private businesses have the right, just like they have the right to keep you on the platform. I can dislike Elon Musk, and I don't think the hatred and the bigotry on X should be tolerated. But guess what? If I don't want to be on X, I don't have to be on X. I don't like Elon Musk, but he owns X. And again, Jack Posobiec just made himself look like a fool because these MAGA Republicans, as I stated, They don't understand what freedom of speech is. It pertains to the government not being able to legally do something to you. If you're on a public sidewalk or something like that, you have the freedom.
Well, I have to tell you, I disagree with him. It sounded like a word salad sandwich. You can conflate the First Amendment rights with freedom of speech. They are not separate and individual thoughts. And he was trying to say one is the law and one is like a party that you can just go out and call people the N-word or
by the way,
say bomb or whatever you want.
By the way, the Piers Morgan Twitter account, I love it because they quoted me multiple times. They didn't quote Jack.
Excellent.
And they quoted me saying Jack is the guy that wants to talk about censorship, but yet he blocked me on Twitter, and they retweeted that out with the clip. So it doesn't make Jack look very good. For some reason, Jack didn't put that on his Twitter, his X. I wonder why, but it got a little bit better.
Did he put up a post about one of your comments? I'm sure you're going to get to it.
He called me, by the way, he didn't call me a liberal. He called me a Trump pundit now.
Right. Well, he really didn't like your Trump fellatio syndrome.
Yeah. Well,
I'm sure we're going to get
to that next. So, so the issue was talking about the N-word in general. And I've been very clear. First of all, I'm not going to tell black people what to say. And when a black person calls a black person the N-word, while I don't like hearing it, it's very different than when a white person calls a black person the N-word, obviously, right? So we were talking about the use of the word, which obviously makes me very uncomfortable. I don't think it should be used by anybody, but I'm not going to tell black people what to say when it comes to that word. It's not my place to do so. I think white people that say it are despicable. And we were talking about the mother who called the 5-year-old child the N-word, obviously despicable. So that's where we leave off towards the end of the show when things got heated. And then I'm told I have Trump derangement syndrome. Now, anybody that knows me knows that I do not tolerate that nonsense. And I responded in kind, maybe not in kind. But the only argument that I was trying to make, which I think was a very fair one, was if anyone donates to this despicable woman who called a 5-year-old child the N-word, you're also despicable. And then Jack Posobiec tries to play whataboutism. Instead of immediately saying, hey, her behavior was despicable, he brings up the Carmelo Anthony case. But I want you to watch this clip because I think it's the most telling clip of who these people really are. And then when I give it back to them, they go crazy. Watch this clip.
Nobody. White people should be able to say it if they sing in a song.
Well, Brian, what's your view?
Okay. Makes me uncomfortable. The word makes me uncomfortable. You're allowed to say it. I would never say it. It's completely different context when a black person says it to a black person.
Yeah.
Do I think the word should be used in any situation? Absolutely not. Can I just go back to Shiloh really quickly if I can? I'm going to say this right now on this show. Anybody who has donated money to her is despicable. Okay. She claims that she has been threatened, that I've had death threats as well. I'm not asking people for money because of death threats. Okay. I don't condone any of those threats if that happened, but anybody who donates money to her to me, it's like donating money to the Ku Klux Klan. She called a 5-year-old child the N-word, and now she's being rewarded for it. Those are despicable people that are donating money to her. And I'm going to leave it there. And if anyone on this panel disagrees with me, I'd love to hear your argument.
Right. Jack,
she
you
called
disagree
a
with him?
5-year-old the N-word, so she should be rewarded for that?
Jack?
Well, I guess my question is, do you have the same view over people donating to Carmelo Anthony?
Sure, I'll answer that question. I love your whataboutism, but I'll still answer your question. There's a fine line difference between people who... I'm answering your question. There's a fine line difference between people who are giving money for a legal fund so he can defend himself and people that are donating money to a woman who called somebody the N-word.
You're cool with that?
Which of course I'm not cool with that. Why would you think I'd be okay with that? Listen, we will find out what happens with Carmelo Anthony in a courtroom. No, I didn't. I'm answering your question. You're not listening to me. No. If you're donating money to help somebody defend themselves in a courtroom, now listen, if he's found guilty, then I'll feel differently about it. I want to wait and see
potential legal challenges.
He is facing legal challenges, but I'm sure you had the same concern with all the legal challenges that Donald Trump was facing, right? I'm sure you did. I'm sure you had the same problem with Donald Trump when they donated money to him for his legal fund with the 34-count felonies. You have Trump fellatio syndrome, okay? It's called TFS.
Right,
don't say I have Trump derangement syndrome.
You see, here you go. We just, hey, Piers, just like you exposed that white girl, we're exposing him.
Talk about Trump.
Hold on.
You
just said I have Trump derangement syndrome.
Fantasy every night.
Okay,
look at you.
You just said I have Trump derangement syndrome. I responded,
no, I didn't, actually.
And I don't wear the Donald Trump knee pads 24/7 like you do, Jack.
Well, I'm a Trump supporter too. So do I wear the knee pads?
I think it's
here's the
sensible.
thing about you,
that's
Brandon.
ridiculous.
All right, let me give
respond
you know.
Yes, you do, Brandon. You notice how he's the one who interjects Trump derangement syndrome. Brandon, by the way,
Oh, you
Jack,
got them going with that.
by the way, Jack is the same way, so I don't feel bad saying that to Jack as well. But you see, Brandon was the one that came at me and said I have Trump derangement syndrome. Then I came back at him and said, you have Trump fellatio syndrome, because Brandon is a despicable human being. He's the male version of Candace Owens. He's a grifter and he's an idiot. And I come back at them. So it's okay for him to say I have Trump derangement syndrome. Why? Because I don't think it's right for people to donate money to racists. I don't think racists should be rewarded. So I asked Jack, because he seems to have a problem with people donating money to those that want to defend themselves in a courtroom. So I said, did you have the same problem with people that donated hundreds of millions of dollars to Donald Trump's legal fund? Oh, all of a sudden I have Trump derangement syndrome for asking that. No, it's called hypocrisy. And when I say that he has Trump fellatio syndrome, did you see how upset they got? They squirmed in their chairs because they didn't know what to say. Because these MAGA Republicans that will say that people like me or you have Trump derangement syndrome, some people don't fight back. Well, guess what? I do. And I don't put up with the BS. And I'm going to come right back at you. If you think I have Trump derangement syndrome, I'm going to say you have Trump fellatio syndrome. Wipe your mouth and go to bed, because that's what I do. And by the way, Piers Morgan again retweeted it, mocking the MAGA people. He said, Brian Shapiro said that they have Trump fellatio syndrome. And then in quotations, he said it was a low blow. Now take that comment for what you will. I think there's a use of words there to make it funny, because they thought it was funny and I thought it was funny. But the two people that did not think it was funny were Brandon, the moron Tatum, who's the wannabe of Candace Owens, the male version, and then Jack Posobiec, who has no sense of humor at all, who's a white supremacist sympathizer.
One quick distinction. So Carmelo Anthony was given money for legal defense, correct? But if you notice, when Shiloh talked about her money, she said she wanted to buy a new house. And that's an important distinction. People are sending her money because she's in danger now, or her life's in danger. And now all of a sudden she wants to move and she wants people to help her move. She didn't, as far as I remember, I don't remember them saying anything about legal defense. The money was for her to move somewhere nicer.
Exactly. So
which means they're supporting exactly what she did. Full support.
It's a very good point that you just made, but here's another point that I'd like to make, and I think you'll agree with me on this. So any normal, decent human being would say, in regards to people donating money to this woman, at a minimum, even if they don't have a problem with people donating money, they'd say, listen, her behavior was despicable. What she said to that 5-year-old was inexcusable. But do you notice, not only does Jack Posobiec and Brandon not say that, they start criticizing me, and they have no problem with people that donate to her. And Brandon had made a comment about a white woman who was on the Piers Morgan show last week, who openly admitted to using the N-word, and somehow
she seemed proud of it.
Yeah, and he was trying to compare her to me. What? Because of the color of my skin? Brandon's a despicable human being. Okay? That's exactly what
my
he
impression of him is he tries to speak with like college level words and tries to be like a wordsmith that kind of tears you down. But really, to me, just like Scott Jennings, it's just a big word salad sandwich. And when you start, people like us start looking at it for facts and evidence and what it really means, you just have to shake your head, because you're like, well, what he said didn't even make sense. He contradicted himself in the same sentence.
Yeah, I agree. And if you really want to get a laugh, go back to that clip where I say Jack Posobiec and Brandon are wearing the Donald Trump knee pads and they have Trump fellatio syndrome. Look at the face that Jack makes, that fake Christian that he is. Look at the face that he makes.
Righteous indignation, right?
Yeah, because nobody's ever probably on a TV show talked to them like that before, and they weren't used to it. Well, not me. I bring it. When they invite me on the show, I defend myself. I don't go to the personal attacks unless they start with me first. And if it's somebody that calls into the show or somebody that says something to me on a TV show like Piers Morgan, if you're going to say I have Trump derangement syndrome, you better be prepared for what I'm going to say next, because it's probably not a good idea. No Jack Posobiec, no Brandon. I'm not a liberal. I know that's your go-to when you don't have an argument. And I don't have Trump derangement syndrome.
But even if you were, how's that relevant? Like you said, it's a fallback. It's a talking point that they all try to come up with. But they even mentioned about liberal business owners. I know plenty of people who are liberal and Democrat, who are very, very successful. And he started saying like, oh, you're against them because they're successful business. I mean, I didn't understand where he was going with that.
Well, because he doesn't have an argument. And I don't think Jack is a very intelligent person. He's another grifter that is on the far
Is he
right.
overcompensating?
Well, I think
in a big way, in a small way? I don't
perhaps, but I will say this about Jack. He's just like Charlie Kirk. They're two of the same. They're racist. They're bigoted in nature. They spew right-wing talking points. They never criticize Donald Trump for anything, and they make a lot of money in doing so. I would say the same thing about a Michael Knowles, and same thing about a Brandon Tatum and many others. They are grifters on the right, Candace Owens. They spew hatred and bigotry every single day, and they wear the Donald Trump knee pads. And yes, they all are suffering from something called TFS, also known as Trump fellatio syndrome. So I would hope that Jack and Brandon wipe their mouth before they go to sleep, take off those knee pads, have a nice night, and you guys are a bunch of cowards.